Let's move on to the bucket system for the American Express. So again, if you're following along with me, there is a link in the description below. Check that link out. That'll get you straight to this cheat sheet that I'll have on the screen right now. You can go ahead, put that filter on here as well. It's called the bucket system, and follow along with me. So I'm going to go ahead and put my filter on. Again, with your cheat sheet, go to File, make a copy. That way you can use those filters. But basically what I'm going to do, I already removed recent form from here. So recent form was selected. I unselected it, or deselected it, I should say, because I'm not recording recent form for the American Express. Technically, this is the third event back, and usually I want 2 events prior when recording recent form. But the first event was the Tournament of Champions. Now, Tournament of Champion golfers, yeah, a handful of them went over the Sony Open. Now, from the Sony, for those 2 events to this event, it's going to be even a smaller handful. So really, we have 1 event for most of the golfers. Some of them have 2, which does work. But the majority of golfers in this field have only at most 1. And that's just not enough. So starting next week, I'll start putting the recent form buckets back in here, and we'll be able to analyze those. But we remove a recent form from the buckets to look at, and we'll just start from the top down. One quick reminder, when we look at the projections, I know I have them in a weird order. I have max projection on the left side and min projection on the right side. I don't know why I did that. I think I just wanted a max projection first, and then like transferring the formulas were easier just moving it one way or the other. I don't remember why. I should clean that up going forward, but just more time that I don't need to be spending. I can just explain it to you here. Max projection, always round up with the number. So if we were to cross-reference, so we're looking at last year 1 buckets, and then we look down at the max projection, we see 2.47. You round up. And that's what you do with every other projection. These are my projections of golfers from that bucket finishing inside the top 10. A different way to say that is, I'm projecting these many golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10, like your max projection and then your min projection. You can see how many golfers are in each of those buckets here with the bucket totals for this year. You can compare it to how many are in that bucket on average. This is helpful because you might see a pretty high success rate, which we don't really see with any of these buckets. But let's say, sure, we'll use that first one. 13.64% is pretty good. 100% of the time, we see at least 1 inside the top 10 every single year that finished inside the top 20 from this event last year. They finish inside the top 10 the following year. That's kind of how you look at that. That's what that frequency rate means. At least 1 has finished inside the top 10 every single year. Well, we have 13 in that bucket this year. On average, we just have north of 19, usually. So we're 6 golfers less or short than we normally see per year. That plays a huge factor into it. Obviously, I do, I apply strength of field points to this bucket with the golfers that are in it. We still have a pretty healthy projection, somewhere between 1 to 3. So keep that in mind when you look at the bucket system. And when I go through this, because I'm not going to continue to talk about, all of these things. That means that let's move on. Let's go into our last year 1 buckets, or just our last year buckets, and we'll start here with the last year 1 bucket. So I'm projecting somewhere between 1 to 3. So 1 to 3 from this bucket. Let's go ahead and look at some of these golfers too. I'm going to do that with each one of these buckets. So go to that cheat sheet. For you guys, it's going to be called the dream sheet. Go ahead, put that filter on, and we can just actually sort through, or I should say filter out, only last year 1s. This bucket is headed by Jon Rahm. Has Patrick Cantlay in it, Sung J M, Will Zalatoris, Brian Harman, a lot of good golfers, put it that way. I imagine we're going to see at least 1 guy from this range inside the top 10. Pretty certain of it. I am projecting somewhere between 1 to 3 inside the top 10. One thing to keep in mind, we might have both Jon Rahm and Patrick Cantlay finish inside the top 10. If that's the case, more than likely you can't build a lineup with them because they're too expensive. But remember what we went over with the past optimal lineups? There are a bunch of 6 and 7Ks in those optimal lineups. One optimal lineup had all 7Ks with one 11K golfer in it. We also had one optimal lineup that, again, using optimal lineups, we had nothing but 7 and 6K golfers in one of the other optimal lineups. You left like $7,000 on the table. I'm not advocating for that, but you could sub out one of those 6 or 7K guys and put in a ROM. You probably still even have enough money to, you know, move up with one of those other 7 or 6K golfers to another reasonable price guy. You might be able to go ROM, Cantlay, 3 6s, and a 7K golfer and have a pretty good shot at taking down a GVP, especially if these guys do finish inside the top 10. Do not feel afraid of building a lineup like that. I think it's possible. Otherwise, pairing up any of these 10K golfers with one of these 9K golfers, super simple, super easy. And you will have enough salary left over to make some damage, to do some damage. I think you do want, 2 7s and a 6, or basically you want 3 golfers, whatever mix you want between the 7 and 6K range. So do with that as you like, build your lineups however you want, but feel confident that you could select at least 2 of these guys, if not 3. I think it's possible. So that's your last year 1 bucket. Moving on to the next one. Last year 2, we want somewhere between 1 to 3. And we can also look at the conservative max projection over here. So I am projecting somewhere between, they stay 3. The projections still max out at 3. 1 to 3 last year 2s. Now these are golfers who finished in that 20 to 40 range last year at last year's event. And it makes things so much easier to select, right? Now we had 2 of the other 10K golfers, Scheffler and Finau. And again, we could have Cantlay and Rahm finish inside the top 10. We could also have Scheffler and Finau finish inside the top 10. And those would satisfy the projections. Doesn't mean you can build, so when you're going out, when you're thinking about building lineups, you might not be able to actually grab a golfer from either of these buckets. It really depends on who's going to finish first. If one of the 10K golfers finishes first, obviously you want them. If none of the 10K golfers finish first, you could probably roster any of them, especially if they all finish inside the top 10. So let's do a hypothetical. Let's say Scotty finishes 5th, Finau finishes 7th. You also have Rahm, who finishes, so say tie for 5th, and Cantlay, who finishes 9th. Now between 7th and 9th, the placement points aren't really huge. So it really depends on the DK points. But altogether, 5th to 9th place, again, probably with placement points, doesn't make a huge difference. It's all about DK points. So you could literally have Cantlay in 8th place score more points than any of these guys finishing 5th or 7th. It still probably doesn't matter. You're pulling hairs at that time or at that moment, because I guarantee you they don't finish outside of 10 points from each other. Like, it'd be really insane. You'd have to have one golfer just tons of birdies with some blow up holes to keep him out of first place and to score way more than these guys. So if those are the projections, 1 to 3 from each of those buckets, and you have 2 10K golfers from each of the buckets finishing inside the top 10, you could build a lineup with 2 of those guys, but more than likely you can only build a lineup with 1 of them, and the buckets will be satisfied. So I'm only mentioning this because it's taken me a long time to learn this. These projections can still be successful. It does not mean you need to seek out grabbing golfers from these buckets. To me, I want to start here and figure out, okay, which golfers do I want to build my lineups around? When I look at the 10K golfers, what's the likelihood these guys are going to finish inside the top 10? Obviously, 10K golfers have a really huge, very big likelihood of finishing inside the top 10. No kidding. But we could start making arguments as to how they could not finish inside the top 10. John Rahm blows a gasket. He gets really upset because the round is taking too long. Just takes him out of it mentally. He doesn't finish inside the top 20. Finishes 21st like he did last year or the year before. Finau, for whatever reason, can't make a putt on any of the greens. He only birdied the par fives and finds himself, maybe he misses the cut. You know, we could forecast something like that. Cantlay can't make a putt. Same thing. Scheffler, I think Scheffler's probably the only safe one. But you know, I don't know. It's how do you feel? It's just whatever you like. Now, you could also make arguments for some of these 9 and 8K golfers that we see in each of these buckets also performing pretty well. So I think right away, when it comes to these last year buckets, last year 1 and last year 2, we have a lot of big decisions to make. I'm not at all worried about the Sony Open's performances with the 10K golfers and the 9K golfers there. I'm liking this. You get 3 rounds with these guys. I doubt, highly doubt, we're going to see any missed cuts from them, and also any finishes outside of 30th place. So it's really figuring out which one it is. But kind of like what I just said, it probably doesn't really matter. I think you just can anchor around any of them and go from there. So yeah, a lot of interesting 7K names, a lot of interesting 8K names. I mean, if we really want to build our lineups around some 7K golfers, we have a bunch of good ones here. Even Grayson Sigg, Nick Taylor, I don't mind. And 6K golfers, yeah, not terrible. Lucas Glover, $6,700. 56th of my ranking so far. Pretty good choice. So yeah, 1 to 3 from here. Probably pretty easy to do that. The next bucket's the last year 3 bucket. Somewhere between 0 to 1, but remember we want a 2-point gap between this. So I would say 0 to 2 to be safe. But my conservative projection's actually 0.69. If this was over 1, like usually when I say, you know, have a conservative or have a 2-point gap, it is already showing for the max projection over 1, meaning we round up to 2. But we don't see that. In fact, we don't really have a really high success rate, a really high frequency rate. We only have 8 golfers in that bucket this year and averaging 13. So that being said, what do our last year 3 golfers look like? Jason Day, no thank you. Davis Riley, I don't mind. Aaron Rye, I don't mind. And then the other guys here. I mean, Doug Gim had a good finish here last year, I think. Or 2 years ago, I think it was. I don't mind, like, Doug Gim. But yeah, a bunch of just lotto tickets down here. Do with that as you will. I'm moving on. Last year 4 bucket. Again, same projections, basically. 0 to 1. And I'm pretty confident with that. I'm pretty comfortable. So 0 to 1. We'll look at last year 4s really quickly. Cageley, Grillo, Taylor. I don't mind these golfers. There's only 4 in the bucket, so just with that, not a great, not a high likelihood, but some quality golfers. This is usually a bucket I just stay away from, period, because the 60 to 80 range, for whatever reason, whether it's your last year buckets or your last week buckets, not great. So probably just staying away from this, although I do like KH Lee. Probably just going to stay away. Let me just set this up with last year 5s. It's good to see Taylor Pendrith up there. We'll have some things to talk about. Looks like we're projecting somewhere between 0 to 2. And even our, you know, I'm just trying to click on this so it matches the color. But our conservative max projection is 1.65, which we round up to 2. So 0 to 2, we have Pendrith, Ricky Fowler. That's interesting. Chris Kirk played really well last week. I don't mind playing him. A lot of interesting plays here. I like Pendrith. I like Fowler. I like Kirk. I don't mind putting a flyer on Munoz. Probably going to stay away from Brendan Todd. Don't mind Brendan Steele. Don't mind Callum Tarran. Or Taryn, however you say his last name. Vegas, I don't mind either. A lot of these guys I don't mind. Again, we want 0 to 2. So I'm not going to really invest a lot of my exposures to these golfers. If anything, they're one-offs. I don't mind sprinkling them in. Or perhaps, you know, because I really do like Taylor Pendrith, 26th in my model this week. I don't mind playing him and just anchoring around him and then saying no thank you to the rest of these guys. You literally can do that. That's what I love about the bucket system. But again, we're projecting 0 to 2. So there's likelihood that we might have two. I'll just skip past it. I think choosing one is at best. That's what you want at most, I think. Now, I could look at the frequency. We have anywhere between 1 to 5 golfers from this bucket finish inside the top 10. We do have 100% frequency rate, but a really, really low success rate. So 8.33%. To put that in perspective, so we have 43 golfers every single year at this event. Let's see. Let me put a calculator on the screen. Because this is what I used to do to try to figure out how many I truly want. So if we have 43 golfers and we multiply that by 0.0833, that's our percentage, comes out to 3.5. So, hey, if you want to use that, you most certainly can. Maybe that's how I should do the projections from now on. Just take the success rate times the bucket totals just to give you the true max of what you want from each of these buckets. 3.5. I should actually look at some of my past buckets that failed when the amount of golfers inside the top 10 finished, or there were more golfers inside the top 10 than what I projected, just to see if that kind of max projection would actually follow suit. So that's interesting. 3.5. Now, again, 1 to 5. Here, let me pull up the buckets just to show you guys what this looks like. So going to the last year, actually, hold on, I'm sorry. Last year, your top 10, kind of going all over the place, top 10. We're looking at the last year bucket right here. Last year, I know the numbers are weird. I have to change that, but this is the bucket we're looking at. 1 year, we saw 1 golfer from that bucket inside the top 10. Otherwise, we've seen 2 or more. So maybe that 3.5 is actually a pretty decent max projection. And going back to the golfers there, yeah, I don't mind building with, 2 or 3 of these guys, really. Especially when you want to build a bunch of 7 and 6K golfers in your lineup. I don't mind whatsoever. Like, Pendrith is a great 8K. I don't mind going to Ricky Fowler. He had some flashes during the fall swing, like was the Zozo or the CJ Cup where he finished second. I mean, good. Possible. This is a perfect tournament for him, by the way. He's a very social person. It's his way to network and stuff. I don't mind Ricky Fowler this week. The last bucket, last year's 6s, these are golfers who did not play the year before. So we're looking in the 2022 American Express. Golfers who didn't play there, they find themselves in this bucket. We have 68 this year. We normally see around 57. So that, big leap in numbers. I'm projecting anywhere between 1 to 4. Our conservative max projection says 2.59, so that's 3, really. Another low success rate, but 1 to 5 golfers from that bucket inside the top 10, usually every single year. I shouldn't say usually, it's the minimum. The minimum's 1, so we see at least 1. And again, if we're looking at the same buckets up here, only 1 year have we seen 1 or less. Otherwise, we've seen 2 or more in every single year. So going to the last year 6 bucket. Now, this also includes golfers who have no course history. This includes golfers that have great course history. We have our last 10K golfer here, Xander Schauffele, who is battling a bad back. Don't know how I feel about that. Tom Kim, on the other hand, I kind of like him this week. He hurt us last week because of really, really bad putting. He's a good putter. He's going to turn that around. Tom Kim wouldn't be a terrible person to go back to. But yeah, so I'm projecting anywhere between 1 to 4. That, I think, is a perfect projection here. There's a lot of good golfers here at the top. And then we just have a ton of golfers in this bucket, period. So any of these guys down here even have the opportunity to finish inside the top 10. Could possibly happen. How about we pull up that calculator again and do the actual maximum? So our success rate, not great, like we said before. But we have 68 golfers in that bucket. Multiply that by 0.0632, we get 4.2. So 4 is actually a pretty solid max projection to have. 4 golfers from that bucket. Starts with Xander. Couple good 9. Well, really 3 3 good 9K golfers. Montgomery, not terrible to go back to. Same with Cam Davis, Keith Mitchell. Those are great names to go back to. I like Thomas Dietrich this week. So yeah, super interesting. Super, super, super interesting. And considering that the top 2 last year buckets have so many 10K golfers in it, I mean, I think we could hit projections and not actually use those buckets. You know, the last year 1 and last year 2 buckets. Because if we have some 10K golfers that do finish inside the top 10 there that do not finish better than 7th place, you really make the argument that you don't want to grab golfers from those buckets. So, I don't know, up to you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Who would you rather go with, or how would you start your lineups using the last year buckets? That's a good one to provide. Moving on to the last week buckets. Here, how about this? Let's make this really easy. Go here, and we'll take out all of them except for last week. That way we won't have all that noise to contend with. Can I even zoom in further? No, we cannot. Can I type it in maybe? Oh yeah, perfect. Last week ones. Let's cruise through these. I don't want to spend too much time talking about each one. But last week ones. We're looking at 0 to 2. Conservative max projection of 2. So we're really just looking 0 to 2 from golfers who top 20'd at the Sony Open. That is what the last week 2 bucket is. Or I'm sorry, last week 1 bucket. 0 to 2. We have Siwoo Kim, who won last week. Probably not going to go there. Don't mind Taylor Montgomery. Don't mind Andrew Putnam. Chris Kirk, sure. SH Kim, I really like this week. And a bunch of... Make your pick. You know, we want 1 to 3 or 0 to 2. I forget what I already said. 0 to 2. So yeah, I think that's perfect. People coming from Hawaii, from the Sony Open, we could see each one of these guys not hit the top 10. But on the other hand, I could see 2. I mean, I could see Siwoo playing really well once again. Same with Taylor Montgomery. He's solid, man. Super solid. The only shaky part of his game is his approach game. He hits the ball a mile. I'm not too concerned. His short game can more than make up for it. This is your prototypical, like, well, I should say prototypical. That's a bit zealous. I would say when Montgomery hits as far as he does and has the short game that he possesses, I don't think this guy really plays worse than... I think he makes all of his cuts. He's going to have like one of those 90%, 95% cut made percentages on tour. When he dials in his irons, though, he's going to be extremely dangerous. So I do like Taylor Montgomery. And then the rest of these guys, I don't mind. Take your pick. I think it's totally fine. Looking at last week 2s, 0 to 2 as well. Conservative max projections the same way. Frequency rate's 80%, so it's not a full 100%. And your last week 2s are the following golfers: Harmon, Brian Harmon, Cameron Davis, KH Lee, JT Poston. All great choices. No issue playing any of these. Again, 0 to 2. We have Denny McCarthy. Pretty good short game. This course will be just fine for him. Brendan Todd, Will Gordon, Steven Yeager, Carl Yuan, Kevin Yu. I like Kevin Yu. He's a really good young player. Even Tyson Alexander down here at $6,400. I'll let you know right now, he is currently in my dummy lineup because watching him play the Sony Open, the guy's solid. I have no issues playing Tyson Alexander. He has no course history, did not play last year. That's fine. So, yeah, interesting choices here. 0 to 2. Let's see what the ultimate max projection is. I think I need to start doing this. So we have 16 golfers here. Multiply by 0.12. Yeah, 2. So 2 is the max. The max. Okay, cool. Going to the next one. Last week 3s, that 40 to 60 range. So golfers who played the Sony Open finished between 40 and 60. We're projecting anywhere between 0 to 2, just like the other 2 buckets. So this is kind of like the last week buckets. It's kind of just a pick and choose. Like, don't feel afraid of playing golfers from the Sony Open, but also don't load up on them either. Tom Hoagie, $8,400. Quite the discount from last week. I don't mind going back to Tom Hoagie. Brendan Steele, Grayson Sig, Justin Suh, Adam Long, Davis Thompson, by the way. What was it? What stats did I see that were good? Yeah, so overall Bentgrass stats, 2 events, averages 10.5, 50% inside the top 10. So that's like a 9th and an 11th. Or is that? No, that'd be 10. Like a 9th and a 12th. That's pretty darn good. I might just take the risk on going with someone like Davis Thompson. Funny story here. Davis Thompson. I was looking him up last week because I was thinking about playing him. I'm not a religious person. I actually don't even care if you're religious at all. Like, I'm not one of those types of people that I'm going to say, like, you know, I'm better than you or feel inferior to you because you're religious and I'm not. I really don't care. Whatever makes you happy makes you happy. I do have an issue with professional athletes like Davis Thompson, who, you go to his PGA Tour profile, you scroll down and you read the notes section, because you can get some kind of interesting pointers from some of these guys, like whether or not they like Bermuda grass, if their favorite type of golf course is this, or their favorite designer is that. You can find that information there. One of the top ones for Davis Thompson was he prays before every round of golf. I don't know why. I just don't like that. It's like, I'm a firm believer, especially with a golfer, you are responsible for what you do on the golf course. I'm not going to leave it up to faith to provide success for me. So I don't know if that's a thing, like a big deal. I'm just providing that information because I think it's kind of silly. Not to offend anyone who's religious. I don't want to do that. Again, do your thing. I'm not going to critique you for that, but I just don't. I like Davis Thompson. I don't like that religious part of it, though. I don't know if it hurts him. I don't know if it helps him. I just don't like it. Moving on. Bramlett, I like. MJ Duffy. I know it says Mathis. That's just how my database works. So MJ Duffy, pretty decent player. I could see playing him. I actually had someone message me saying, "Hey, Augusto Nunez. I just followed him on a practice round. The guy hits the ball super well." Take that for what you want. I believe he's a young kid. I think 2 years ago he was like 19 years old. Maybe he was even younger than that. You want to take a flyer with Augusto? I don't think that's a terrible idea. Not really high in my rankings, and doesn't really hit a lot of the buckets that I really, care for. So anyways, that's your last week 3 bucket. Your last week 4s. You want somewhere between 0 to 1. Now, again, I automatically kind of bump that up to a 2. How about this? Let's do this. This is just going to be our end-all, be-all. No, you don't want more than 1. Okay, cool. I'm sticking to that. Don't want more than 1 from the last week 4s, and I wouldn't disagree because I don't like that 40 to 60 or that 60 to 80 range. We've got some notable golfers here. English, Aaron Rye, Russell Knox, Troy Merritt, Patton Kazire. Yeah, this is wonderful. Pick one of these guys and then skip the rest. Wonderful. Love that. Moving on. Last week 5s, 0 to 2. I'm not going to pull the calculator out for that. That's fine with me. 0 to 2 works. These are guys who missed the cut last week. So you want somewhere between 0 to 2, or at least that's what we're projecting to be inside the top 10. No, it's not an anchor bucket. Nope, not an anchor bucket. So it's not for me, for certain that we will get one inside the top 10, but probably a good choice. We have Sung J M, Tom Kim in this bucket, Keith Mitchell. I like these 3 golfers. I could even pair 2 of these guys up together. Here's the wonderful thing about this bucket. You don't want to pair up more than 2. So if you like some of these guys down here, you're going to hamstring yourself by picking 1 or more golfers, additional golfers to go with them. So, I like that. This is going to really limit you in building your lineups. This is why I love the bucket system. So actually, I am going to do the calculator thing. I bet it's actually a lot higher than, let's see, 0.0495. 2.2. So 2 is the max. 0 to 2. Okay. It's obviously really good to know. And again, my buckets are taking into account the strike the field points that these golfers bring with them. So just so you see, you know, Sung Jae accounts for 18 of the strength of field points. That's pretty high. Tom Kim accounts for 13. The rest of the bucket, pretty pitiful. And if I were to open this up to everybody, you can see where these guys rank. So if I were to do top to bottom, Sky Scheffler brings in 44 points, Rahm brings in 30, Cantlay, we get 7 golfers down, and that's where Sung Jae Im is. And then you go another 4 golfers down from him, and that's where you get Tom Kim. So that bucket is actually pretty decent. But it's still projecting 0 to 2. That's because of the success rate. So really do with that as you want. I personally going to probably stay away from it. So Tom Kim, Sung Jae Im, Keith Mitchell, and I don't mind fading like a Bazane Hout or any of the other guys down there. I do like Alex Smalley. I'll say that. I think Alex Smalley is a good choice. All right. Last bucket from the last week buckets. Golfers who didn't play last week get a huge bonus. We're projecting somewhere between 2 to 5 golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10. We already know with some of these golfers, we have Rahm in there, Scheffler. We have a bunch of really good golfers in this bucket. Yeah, I mean, look at it's loaded with top names. So 2 to 5. With that being said, maybe you can only roster 2 of these guys, especially if some of these 10K golfers. Remember when we were talking about the last year buckets, last year 1, last year 2? Well, Cantlay and Rahm are in the same bucket. They could finish inside the top 10. So too could Scheffler and Finau. Remember when we were using that example? If those 4 golfers do finish inside the top 10, at most you can roster 2 of those guys. But also, probably just 1. You know, it really depends on what fills in after that. If it's nothing but 8K golfers and 9K golfers, then you probably want to do the 10-9-8, 7-7-6 method. Or maybe we do 2 10K golfers and then go down to the 6Ks. Anything can happen this week. So this bucket can get fulfilled really easily just by the guys at the top, meaning you exclude the rest of these guys, which there are too many good names to do just that. Like, this is a crazy bucket. I am going to use the calculator for this. This is what I'm going to start just putting it on the screen that way. I'll tell you why it doesn't go the way that I'm currently doing it. So 53, multiply that by 0.0755. We have 4. So 4. Wow. Okay. I'm cool with that. Basically, the numbers that equal up, that total up here for the max projection is 10, and the minimum is 6. Because you want to pick 6 golfers in your lineup. That's how I do my minimums. And the maximums, yeah, I mean, I could do it the way that I was just showing you, taking the total number of golfers, multiply it by the success rate. The only issue with that is we're not taking into account strength of field points, like the quality of the bucket. There are issues. That's why I have it the way that I have it. So I don't mind doing it this way, especially, you know, at most we usually only see 10K golfer or 10 golfers in the top 10 of a leaderboard, but sometimes we get ties and we get anywhere between 11 to 19 golfers inside the top 10. You can certainly do that. That can happen. It has before. And then those projections do work out that way. So I don't know. I have to toy around with it. You guys let me know how you feel about that. Let me know in the comment section. But yeah, that's a big bucket to use. All right, moving on from the last week buckets, we're going to go right into the course history buckets. Start with course history 1s. These are the guys who average a top 20 finish at this event for their entire course history. We have 7 golfers in this bucket this year or this week. We usually see an average of 7 in that bucket. Again, 0 to 2. And it's a 50% frequency rate. So half the time we do see golfers from this bucket inside the top 10, half the time we don't. And this bucket is headed by John Rahm, Sung Jae Im, Will Zalatoris, Cameron Davis, Adam Hadwin, Lee Hodges, Dave Lipsky. I think it's pretty fair to say 0 to 2 is a very good projection. you know, we could see Sung J M in that with John Rahm. We could see Zalatoris in it as well. Same with Cameron Davis. Maybe we don't see John Rahm in it at all. Maybe this is a great time to start to play someone like Will Zalatoris, which I have no issues doing at all. I do like Zalatoris a lot this week. Let me load up the Course History 2s. Going into the Course History 2s, we're projecting somewhere between 1 to 3. And even our max projection is very similar to that. It's 2.3. So round up, that equals 3. 87% frequency rate. So that means 1 out of the last, 7 years, we did not see a golfer inside the top 10 from this bucket. Otherwise, we normally do. Looking at Course History 2s, Scotty Scheffler leads this bucket with Patrick Cantlay. I think it's safe to say one of these guys, just those two guys alone, mean that this bucket's going to hit. I think we're going to have at least one golfer inside the top 10 from this bucket. If it's not those two, Burns is a great choice. Harmon's a great choice. Cameron Young, yeah, another good choice. Sahith Theegala, like that guy. We could really make arguments for just about each of these guys, except for probably Lingmerth and Albertson. So, hard bucket to choose, but you want somewhere between 1 to 3 out of that bucket. Looking at Course History 2 or Course History 3s, 1 to 3 here as well. Everything's the same as the last bucket. So let's take a look. Course History 3s. This is that 40 to 60 range. This is their average finishing position. And it's actually headed by Tony Finau. And then it drops from a 10K golfer down to an 8K golfer in Tom Hoge, KH Lee, Wyndham Clark. 1 to 3 from this range, I think, is pretty reasonable. We have a bunch of golfers in this bucket, most of them in the 6K range. But anyone 7K and above is pretty live, honestly. I think, yeah, again, I can make arguments for each one of these guys except for Jason Day. Just not going to play Jason Day. I'm going to not play Jason Day, and I'm going to be totally happy not playing Jason. 7,900. If he was like 72, I'd probably play Jason Day. I have no issue with that. 74 is probably my max, but I'm not touching Jason Day. Although, I suppose he has had a lot of time off, so probably has rested his body. Once he gets into the flow of things, I think it's easier to fade him when he starts golfing more events. So anyways, 1 to 3 from this bucket. I think it's easy to do that. Let me load up the next one before we talk about it. Course History 4s, somewhere between 0 to 2. Pretty average projections here. We have a 62% frequency rate, so not super great. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Course History 4s. Aaron Wise is your top price guy here, $9,000. I do like Wise this week. I don't mind Keith Mitchell. I don't mind Denny McCarthy, Patrick Rogers. They're all good choices as well. So, a lot of good options here. It's really up to you. Just pick your poison. 6K range, not super great. So, 0 to 2 from this range. Wise, obviously, one of my favorites. I do like Will Gordon this week. Matthew Neesmith actually has my attention as well so far. So, good choices here. Load the other one up before talking about it. Course History 5s. All right, so your Course History 5 bucket, we're projecting anywhere between 0 to 2 inside the top 10, and that pretty common with the conservative max projection. We do have 100% frequency rate. So these are guys who average a missed cut at this event. Xander Schauffele, that's impressive. Tom Kim, Taylor Pendrith, those 3 guys alone, I think pretty easy to select a golfer from them and put in your lineup. I personally like Pendrith. For all the buckets we've seen so far with Pendrith in it, I do like Pendrith. And then we kind of just quickly dive into the 7 and 6K range. So yeah, I think the 0 to 2 projection really relates to the guys here at the top. I'm probably staying away from Schauffele. I'll be playing a lot of Tom Kim, Taylor Pendrith. No problems doing that. I just don't know. I'll probably just mix and match some of these other guys. But if I was to really choose anyone, Pendrith is my guy, followed by Tom Kim, and then I don't know where to go from there. The last bucket in the Course History buckets to talk about is the 6th bucket. These are guys who have not played ever this event ever. And we want somewhere between 0 to 2. So let's take a look at who heads this bucket. Taylor Montgomery, $8,900. Pretty good. You get a lot of rookies in here, by the way. Like, you can kind of already see the bent grass events. Everything is less, pretty much all of them are less than 15. All but 2. So these are your rookies, obviously. Yeah, Montgomery, Dietrich, Burmester, these are 3 good golfers to play. No issues there. Matthias Schmid seems interesting. 2 events on bent grass, 1 top 10, a 33.5 average finishing position probably means that's probably like a 4th place finish and then like a 70th place finish. It's not super great. It's very volatile. So I wouldn't even look at that percentage and take anything with it. I guess the rest of these guys, not a big deal. So 0 to 2, right? Is that what our projection was? 0 to 2. And I'm more comfortable doing 1. Like Montgomery, Dietrich, or Burmester. Or SH Kin. Hold on. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of good names as I go over this. Actually, Carl Yuan, Justin Suh, Ben Griffin, SH Kim, Burmester, Dietrich, Montgomery I like Kevin Yu, Eckroat, and Tyson Alexander. Otherwise, I'm probably staying away from the rest of the guys. Don't really care. So that wraps up your course history bucket. Now let's get into our salaries, which kind of, we did talk a little bit about this with past optimal lineups. Remember, every lineup that was a GPP winning lineup or even a realistic lineup that I created started with a 10K golfer, a 7K golfer, and then had either another 7K golfer in it or a 6K. So really it's choose a 10K golfer, choose a 7K golfer, and then in the next position you select, choose between another 7 or a 6. And you're going to be on the right path to be building your lineups. And then fill in the rest with whatever. 9K, 8K, several 8Ks, couple 9Ks, doesn't matter. However it works out for your lineup. But having a 7K golfer in there and a 10K golfer seem pretty imperative. And then that third position, you want either another 7 or another 6. Seems that's the way you want to go. Anyways, we're not going to talk about the golfers in the salary ranges. 1 to 3 10K golfers. I think that just tells you want at least one. 100% frequency rate that we see at least one 10K golfer inside the top 10 of every single year. That's enough reason to actually select a 10K golfer. We have a projection of 0 to 2 for 9K golfers, and the conservative projection max projection doesn't move that up. So yeah, stick to 0 to 2. 80% frequency rate. So I'm guessing for the last 5 years, we've had one golfer from the 9K range inside the top 10, just one year it missed. So do with that as you will. I think it's okay to play a 9K golfer this week. It seems pretty reasonable. 8K 0 to 2 as well. Not a high frequency rate, not a great success rate. And my max projection is still 0 to 2. 7K range, 1 to 3. Max projection holds up. 100% frequency rate. Decent success rate, especially when you compare it to the 8K range. Like 7K range, pretty well, pretty decent. And there are 42 golfers in that bucket this week. That's going to help. That's a volume-driven bucket versus 10 in the 8K range. Yeah, pretty simple. Now, what's also interesting is that high 6K range, so 6,500 to 6,900, we have seen at least one golfer in that bucket every single year finish inside the top 10 as well. So it's going to be harder to choose, and you really just only want 0 to 2, it looks like, from this bucket. Maybe just keep it 0 to 1. But yeah, we have seen a high 6K inside every single top 10 dating back to 2018. So at the American Express, by the way. So yeah, do with that as you will. And then our last salary bucket is the low 6K range. 0 to 2 is our projection there. Again, harder to choose golfers from this one. I'd do 1 at most. I would do no more than 2 6K golfers in a lineup. I will not go to 3 6Ks. I just suggest you guys don't do that as well. Pick up to 2 6Ks And if you are going to do that, so a way that I'd like to build is, if I do two 6Ks, I'm either doing two upper 6Ks, so 6,500 and above, or one low 6K plus one high 6K. I will not do two low 6Ks. That is way too volatile, way too difficult. So I'll just stay away from that. And it didn't even look like the low 6K range was all that great this week. Like Tyson Alexander, $6,400. It's probably my favorite one in that range. And you could probably pick like 3 or 4 from that range that seemed okay, but you are dancing with volatility pretty hard. So I don't know. I'd probably stay away from it. I think it's a smart thing to do. And by that, I mean, stay away from picking 2 guys from that range. And don't get married to anyone in that 6K range either. Just my piece of advice from long years of experience. The last buckets to talk about are the strokes gain buckets. If you have no idea what this means, check out that bucket system video in the description. There's a video link there. That'll get you here and it'll explain all about the strokes gain buckets. I'm not going to talk about those here. Strokes gain 1 buckets. And by the way, everything in the cheat sheet has the buckets, numbered right here. So whatever I'm saying here in the summary page and the bucket system page, whatever I'm projecting, you can go in there and filter out by those. So if I say strokes gain 1, you can literally come here and only take a look at the strokes gain 1 buckets and the golfers that are in them. And then you can try to figure out what it means, or just watch the video and I'll tell you what it means. So again, there's a video link that talks about the bucket system to go along with the strokes gain buckets. Strokes gain 1 bucket, by far the best bucket to choose from. It has the best golfers in here. We have 21 golfers in this bucket this year. We usually see 7.5, which is pretty remarkable. It means they're, and by the way, I haven't seen this great of a field here in a very long time. I mean, like strength of field's 403. Last year, strength of field was 321. So, I mean, it's pretty high. 80 points less than it is, 80 points more this year than it was last year. And I don't know what the strength of field was here. I wonder if I have a video that shows it in 2021. Sad that I didn't calculate it then. But anyways, 403 is pretty high. Your average strength of field event on tour is about 270. So yeah, strokes gain 1. I mean, look at all of our 9K and above golfers. We have how many? 10. Again, we already talked about Cantlay. We talked about Finau. We talked about Scheffler. We also talked about Rahm, but Rahm is barely in the strokes gain 2 bucket. Talk about these guys probably finishing inside the top 10, and you can only roster 1, maybe 2 at most. But if you feel way more comfortable with some of these other guys down here, remember the max projection is 5. We're looking at 2 to 5 golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10. So yeah, it could be Scheffler, Finau, and Cantlay finishing inside the top 10. That could happen. We also have 2 spots where, 2 other golfers could actually finish inside the top 10. And you've got a whole plethora of golfers down here that are very, very rosterable. Thomas Dietrich, for sure. Sahith Theegala, yep. Cameron Davis, Aaron Wise, Cameron Young, Brian Harman, like, good luck. It's hard to not think that all of these guys could finish inside the top 10, because I can make arguments for each one of them except for Jason Day and probably Xander Schauffele. Those are golfers I cannot make arguments for finishing inside the top 10. I just don't trust them. Like, I just don't trust Jason Day. And we don't know what Xander's back is like, truly. Back issues on tour, the #1 killer in a golf swing. So even if he's somewhat healthy or he's good enough to play, doesn't mean he's fully recovered. And you don't really fully recover from a back issue in 2 weeks. So kind of wondering why he's playing this event. I don't know if it's going to be great for him. He's going to do a lot of standing unless he sits on the grass. So that's not really good for your back. Anyways, 2 to 5 from this bucket. Strokes gain 2. We're looking somewhere between 1 to 3 inside the top 10. Max projection sticks with that. 100% frequency rate. I already tell you John Rahm is in this bucket, but I imagine we have a couple other good golfers in this bucket. Taylor Montgomery, Tom Hoagie, $8,400 Tom Hoagie, by the way. $8,100 Wyndham Clark, Keith Mitchell, Patrick Rogers. Yeah. S.H. Kim. Probably all I want to talk about. Yeah. Great bucket here. 1 to 3. Choose whoever you like. Stroke chain 3. We're looking at 0 to 2. This has a 100% frequency rate as well, but it's not as confident. 0 to 2. We've actually seen at least 3 in this bucket. There's 39 golfers in that bucket this year, and we usually see 41. I imagine this has a lot to do with past years just having better golfers in those buckets. So let's see here. We're looking at 20. Let's go to 2022 first. Swafford, he was a stroke chain 3 guy, $6,700. Lee Hodges was a $6,400. Oh yeah, there's Will Zalatoris. He was $9,100 in that bucket. Francesco Molinari, but I'm not going to say he was good last year. So yeah, 4 golfers from that bucket inside the top 10. Okay. 2021, we have Francesco once again, Paul Casey once again, and Benny Ann in that bucket. I'm not seeing any really high price guys from that bucket. 2020, here's Abram Answer, Sammy Burns, Sung J.M. All stroke chain 3 guys. Sung J.M., yeah, we could use him as a good golfer that's in that bucket. The other 2, I mean, I guess Abe Answer at $8,900 was a good one, and we all know how good Sam Burns is, so it's crazy he was $6,100 at one point in time. Crazy. I don't have oh, I do. Salaries are way over here. Adam Hadwin, $10,000. He was a stroke chain. Oh, he wasn't a stroke chain 3. Let's see. Stroke chain 3 would have been, it's positive off the tee and negative putting. So Taylor Gooch would have been one. JT Poston at that time would have been one. He wasn't a positive putter. That's crazy. John Rahm was a stroke chain 3 golfer that year as well. So yeah. So that was actually, yeah, John Rahm, 11,600. He also had Adam Hadwin was positive putting. It was Adam Long that was, nope, he was, so it was Gooch, Rahm, Poston. Cantley was a 1. That was it. It was just those 3. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. Gooch, JT Poston, John Rahm. We have a $7,200 guy, 11.6, and a $6,400 guy. So another 6K range golfer who was a stroke chain 3 guy. So that's super interesting. That's crazy. So going into the stroke chain 3s, remember it's 0 to 2 is what the projection is, but we've seen at least 3 every single year. Taylor Pendrith is there, like that. I like Davis Riley. Chris Kirk, Alex Smalley, Will Gordon, Dean Burmester, Brennan Steele, Lee Hodges, Luke List, I even like. There are a lot of good stroke chain 3 golfers here. I mean, do we want to try to figure out what the 6K golfer is? Because that's usually what we see from the stroke chain 3 is a 6K golfer inside the top 10. Could be Eckroat. He did well last week. Brendan Wu is actually in this bucket. That's that looks pretty good. Danny Lee, I don't mind. Or kind of a dart throw. Joseph Bramlett, I like. Oof. These guys down here are hard to look at. Like Kramer Hickok has I've bit the bullet with him too many times. Like I can't play him. Devin Chappell seems interesting. Mr. 59. And then Augusto Nunez, my buddy in the desert right now, is telling me how great this guy was hitting it. So those are also choices. Yeah, I don't think I want to select anyone else. But 0 to 2, and again, we've seen at least 3 every single year. Now, my stroke chain stats only go back 4 years, so take that for what it's worth. Actually, it might be 3 years for this event. No, it was 4 years. Yeah, 0 to 2. I think that's safe. I'm cool with that. I don't want to do more than that. Stroke chain 4, 0 to 2. We're also see a 100% frequency rate with 1 being the minimum here. So stroke chain 4. Sam Burns leads it off. There are guys that are negative off the tee. Burns isn't usually negative off the tee. I'm guessing he clubbed down enough times and found the rough, and that's how he has negative strokes gained off the tee stats. He's not a strokes gained off the tee negative guy. So seeing him here, he's probably a strokes gained 2 guy at on a normal day, and strokes gained 1 on a good day. So seeing him up here, yeah, I mean, if there's going to be a guy, it's probably him. But hey, we've got Putnam, Hadwin. These guys are good at this golf course or at these golf courses. A lot of these guys, no issues playing. I'm probably, again, I'll stay between 0 to 2. I'm cool with that. I could play 0 golfers from this bucket. I could play up to 2 golfers from this bucket. Probably staying away from the low 6K range, though. I think I'm totally cool with that. I don't need to play any of those guys. Stroke chain 5. Let me load this up before talking about it. We want 0 to 1, and that actually remains constant with the conservative max projection. And Ricky Fowler's really David Lipsky, I guess I don't mind, but okay. I see more golfers that I like. Fowler, Lipsky, Knox, Taylor, Van Rooyen. I don't mind Charlie Hoffman. Andrew Novak. Again, we want 0 to... Really, it's 0 to 2, but I don't think I want more than 1 golfer from this bucket to be in my lineup. So the ones that I just select, I think are good enough. And then the last one is stroke chain 6. We have 1 golfer in that bucket this year. I'm not even going to go over it. So I think that's going to conclude the bucket system and the stroke chain buckets. An hour 50 minutes. Okay. I think this might just conclude the video altogether. Let me go ahead, bring this down. Just a reminder, I do giveaways. If you want to be a part of it, all you gotta do is be subscribed to this channel, comment down below. Comment on any of the videos that I post this week. You'll get a free entry per video that you comment on. So you can't get multiple entries per video. So like if you comment 4 times on a video, you're only going to get 1 free entry from it. You're not going to get 4 free entries. It's just limited to 1. So keep that in mind. I do appreciate just the engagement. So if you're really asking me questions on those comments, I'm all for it. But if you're just trying to post like as many comments as you possibly can, the only thing that you're going to get out of it is being the top commenter, which Barry R has right over there. It won't get you more free entries into it. Now, if you're someone who is just coming to this channel for the first time, go ahead and comment on some of the past videos. That'll give you credit for the monthly giveaway. I'm cool with that. If you want to go back and comment on some videos that you haven't yet commented on to get yourself kind of an equal leg into the drawing that I'll be doing at the end of the month. We hit that subscriber mark of 500 subscribers, then I give away $50. If not, I give away a t-shirt with this logo on it. So up to you guys. I will reward you one way or the other. Again, Prize Picks, I have a promo code for this. You sign up using the promo code SweetSpot and put at least $20 in your account. I will give you your $20 back. Plus, Prize Picks will match your deposit up to $100. So your 20 turns into 40. It just requires you that sign up information as well as that initial deposit, and you'll have $40 in your account. And it really just costs you that sign up information. Of course, you can put up $100 in there and get that match deposit by Prize Picks and get $200 in your account, and it really only costs you $80. So up to you guys. There's a link in the description below that'll get you to the sign up page. Highly encourage you guys to do that. As well, throughout this whole video, you could follow along with me with the cheat sheet. That is also in the description below. I will be going live tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you want to, build some lineups with me, because I will be using the bucket system as well as the optimizer to do just that. I'll be building lineups. kind of giving some ideas on how you can build lineups following the buckets. Remember, we could have taken down a GBP following the bucket system last week. Despite, 4 of the buckets actually failing, that just means 4 of those golfers weren't inside the top 10. Like those buckets didn't have enough top 10 finishers in each one of them. That's why they failed. But we could have taken down a GBP with them. So building lineups with the bucket system, with the optimizers, very, very beneficial, very helpful, especially if you have the right core of golfers to sprinkle in the last 2 or 3 or 4 golfers to your lineup following the bucket system process. That will be available tomorrow. I'll also have the optimizer available for you guys tomorrow night once we get the tee times, because that's a huge part of it too, is the marquee tee times. So join me tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be live. Have any questions ready that I will answer? I engage with the audience as much as possible. I try not to miss one single question, one single comment. So again, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's all that I have for you in this one. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe on your way out, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.